Meeting session is now being recorded. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our March 2015 Best Practice webinar. Today we have Allison McIntyre from the STARS After-School program in Starmont, from Starmont Elementary School in Arlington, Iowa, who will be presenting on inclusion. And I will go ahead and turn it over to Allison.
Hi everyone. The title of my presentation today is Including Students with Special Needs in After-School Programming. As Indira mentioned, I am from Arlington, Iowa. It's a little tiny school that's in the middle of the cornfield. And our program right now, just so that you have an idea, runs every day from 3:30 till 6:30, except for Wednesdays, in which we run from 2 to 6 because we have early outs every Wednesday. During the summer, we run Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till noon for 6 weeks, and the kindergartners through 6th graders can attend currently, but we'll be changing that next year structurally to only include through 5th grade because now our 6th graders are considered middle school. Anyway, our summer program runs in conjunction with the extended school year program that Starmont offers. So most of the students who qualify for an extended school year due to having an IEP also attend our summer program. Now, during this time, our grade levels get split to during programming for academic purposes. But the club time, all students are mixed. So that includes our students with special needs. Right now, most of the time, our students with special needs will go to work with a one-on-one paraprofessional during the time that we do academics, and then they come back to join with the club activities, so they participate in everything as fully as possible. I did want to mention here that during our summer program, our one-to-one paraprofessionals are paid through Medicare funding instead of because they classify it as extended school year, so that's how we fund all of those paras. Now, during the school year, we currently have 3 students who have special needs who regularly attend our after-school programming, plus several who qualify for either reading recovery or have an IEP in a specific area. So each student is incorporated into our programming as fully as possible, but you have to be flexible. That's something that I'll say more than once, because flexibility is key when you're working with students with special needs. Now, we use an approach of differentiation in our program because we have a wide range of ages and abilities that attend regularly. So each differentiation occurs within each activity, and the activities that are planned have multiple ways of completing the task depending on what task is. For example, this week we're doing a spring theme. I know it's 5 inches, but we're still doing spring because it's such a really spring. Today our students are going to do a read aloud with frog and toad together, so we're going to read to them. And then they'll be creating a frog that actually transitions from a tadpole to a frog using metal fasteners with the legs fold out and fold in. You can see what it looks like. Our students who have higher needs will receive one-to-one assistance from staff and professionals. Our older students generally help the younger students, so the 5th and 6th graders usually help the kindergartners and 1st graders. And all students can do most things with this craftivity, but they might need some assistance in some ways. So I know that our students probably will need help using the hole puncher, but that's across the board. Now, in an ideal world, everyone would work together on this project, and there would be no fighting, yelling, or conflict, and every project would mysteriously and perfectly be complete. And the students could all identify why they were doing the activity. However, this is not the ideal world. This is the real world, and this is not what always happens. So that's where flexibility comes in. There's always unforeseen circumstances, and we have to be flexible with the way we handle things. Usually when some kind of a conflict arises, I ask myself, what is the purpose of this activity? Many times, for our students with special needs, the most important thing for them is the socializing with other kids. It's not necessarily that they learn that a tadpole turns into a frog. It's that they learn that they can work with other kids. Now, for our regular education students, the outcome is still the same. We still want them to participate and to learn the way the tadpole transforms or whatever the activity happens to be. But with our students with special needs, there's always exceptions. A couple of recommendations before you work with a specific student. Check with their primary teacher to find out what their goals are. Now, this primary teacher might be the classroom teacher. It might also be a special ed teacher or a paraprofessional. So, if the student is working on letters and colors, maybe you focus on that, or social goals, reading. We try to sort of incorporate their goals the best that we can into what we're already doing. Now, does the child need a one-to-one aid? If the child does have a regular aid from school, can that regular aid work with them after school? This helps with consistency for the child. Now, I can tell you that we are so blessed here at Starmont with our one-to-one paraprofessionals. They are just wonderful, and they know their students and how they work. These one-to-one aids will save you if you don't know what's going on or if you're having difficulty. If your regular aid cannot stay after school, then have the aide that you hire to work with that student work with the regular aide of that student's established routine. So, for instance, sometimes during our summer program, some of our paraprofessionals don't want to work all summer long, so we hire other people to work with them. But we try to make sure that the person who works with them regularly trains them to make sure that the routine for the student is consistent that way. Now, another thing to think about is, does the child need to be in every activity with the rest of the group? Currently, we have one student who has oppositional defiance disorder and obsessive compulsive disorder. She sometimes has difficulty staying with our group because she likes to do exactly the opposite of what everybody else is doing. Now, she has really good days, and if it's a preferred activity, a lot of times she'll participate. But if she's having a bad day, a lot of times she leaves the large group and does smaller activities until she's ready to join us. Now, we also a lot of times will have her in the room with the rest of the students, but then we'll have her leave as needed with her paraprofessionals. Now, children with special needs can participate in every activity, but it does not mean that they must participate in every activity. For us, we know that certain activities trigger certain behaviors, and if we know that a child is going to have difficulties participating or might be causing a distraction for the other students, we might not have them participate in that activity depending on what the teacher wants. Now, you always should check with a special education teacher, because maybe the goal is for the student to participate in every single activity. And if that's the goal, then for sure have them stay. But I know that with our little one, her goal is mostly to participate where she can, and when she can't, then we just make that work for her and for us. Now, one thing that I really wanted to emphasize today is that fair is not always equal. Now, sometimes your kids say, well, that's not fair. How come she gets to, or how come he gets to? But there is no one-size-fits-all with kids. It's with every kid that you have, not just kids who have special needs. So, for instance, a game rule might need to be bent a little or changed to make things fair, but that fairness is not necessarily equal for all kids. But we want to make sure that we will be as flexible as we possibly can with these students. We have wonderful paraprofessionals in Starmont, and I've said that before, but because of that, we can do a lot of things that other people can't. I asked, when I told them I was doing this webinar, I asked them what I should say. And they said, well, ultimately, you have to make sure that you're doing what's best for your whole group as well as your individual students. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we are really doing our very best to include kids. And it's all in the way you view it. I used to work at Camp Traces of Iowa, which is in Monticello. And one of our big things that we used to always say was, it's not hurting somebody else, or the person individually, then is it really that big of a deal? So if a student is running around the room, the other students are still on task, but the student is not hurting anybody and they're not hurting themselves, well, you got to pick which battles you want to fight. And maybe that day it's something that you want to fight, somebody that's not. Obviously, there's things that we have to focus on, and there's things that we have to make sure that we do correct behaviors that we have to correct. But sometimes, if it's not a big deal, then we just kind of, you just kind of let it go. I wasn't quite sure how much or how long I should talk today. I don't know if there's questions that people have about what we do here. We are as inclusive as we possibly can. As I mentioned, we have 3 students who have high needs that currently attend our program regularly, plus other students in addition to that. Any students that have IEPs, we focus on their needs during our homework time. So I don't know if we have any questions or anything I could answer for you.
Okay, Allison, thank you so much for the presentation. Let me go ahead and stop this recording. Thank you for everybody who listened today.